If you recall in my first episode in this series on buying a 1986 to 1995 Mercedes-Benz, I talked about 10 reasons why you might want to buy one of these cars. And one of those reasons was the advantage of taking these cars and turning them into a project to do with your son or your daughter. And I felt there's really a great opportunity here to teach your child about a car, because they got to get their hands dirty, they got to wrench, you got to work with them, you got to do things with them. And when they're all done, they're going to understand a lot of things about fixing cars that will really help them in the future. You know, I really feel bad for people that don't know anything about cars at all. I tell you, I've seen a lot of people really get taken advantage of just because they know nothing. But granted, those kids may never work on a car, may never own a car, become an enthusiast like you or like me. Now, my three kids, my two sons and my daughter, all three of them went through a project with me. My daughter Kaya, we got a W108 with a bad engine, and then we got another car with a good engine, and we did the engine swap together. And we had a lot of fun doing it. And boy, she sure learned a lot about cars. I would say that my daughter Kaya probably knows more about old Mercedes-Benz than any other woman in the world. Then with my older son Matthew, we got a W123 240D that was crunched in the front, but had a great engine in it. And then we went out and got another car, and we pieced a new front end of that car. He had to totally go through it and prep it for paint and repaint the car, and we put a different interior in it. So that was a long project, but it was a great opportunity to work with Matthew and to teach him a lot about cars. And then my youngest son Joel, we found this absolute pristine 1975 W115 240D with a bad engine. The engine was shot. I mean, the car had beautiful paint, beautiful interior, but the engine was no good. And we waited for over 6 months to find a good engine. We found an engine out of a beater car that someone had just overhauled the engine. So we ended up putting a rebuilt diesel engine in this beautiful green 240D, and he had a great car that he drove for over 2 years. We paid $500 for the really cherry car, and we paid $800 for the car that had that rebuilt engine. And between putting the parts together on those two cars, he didn't have any more money in it at all. So, and then we sold it for considerably more than we had into it. He was really excited about that. My daughter's probably the most enthusiastic, but for my sons, cars are an appliance. Does that mean it wasn't worth it? You better believe it was worth it. Every time they have a problem with a car, they at least know how to figure out what's wrong. They may not end up fixing it themselves, but a lot of times they kind of know. And if they take the car in for a repair, they're very aware of what it should really cost to fix. I've got another project here. I want to tell you about it because this is a great example, and you get to see this one firsthand. This here is a 1990 300 SE. It's a W126 chassis and has the inline 6-cylinder engine. I just love these cars. I love the late series W126, that's 90 and 91. And I really like these cars with a 6-cylinder. They get better fuel economy, they're lighter in the front end. I think, even though they don't accelerate as fast as a 560, I think they're a little more peppy as far as driving. But I also love this color, smoke silver. And this car has parchment leather. So as far as color combination, this is probably one of my favorite W126s, right in that 1988 to 1991 era. It has the newer style leather in it, which I like, but this is really a nice car. Look at that. All original paint. There's absolutely not a spot of rust in this car, but it has one slight problem, and this is how I was able to acquire the car. It has a little engine knock. Now you can hear this knock when you start it up, and I'm convinced it's a piston. You can drive the car runs fine, but I don't know if I would want to take this car to California with that particular engine problem. There's a lot of nice things about the car, but after I got into that engine and that knock sound, you know, just won't go away, I decided, okay, I've got to go after an engine, just like I've done for years. I think this first project with my kids was back in the 90s. This is almost 20 years ago, and I'm still doing that. I still feel that one of the best ways to get one of these 86 to 95 Mercedes is to get two of them. Now I realize if you don't have the space, don't have the tools, don't have the interest, well, it doesn't matter. That's probably not for you. But if it is for you, getting two cars, one with a really nice body and interior and one with a really good engine, and mating them together is one of the best ways to restore. This is what I call a rolling restoration. You're not tearing a car apart, you're not repainting it, you're not redoing the interior. All you're doing is taking the engine out of one and putting it in the other. And while you do that, you get a chance to change the belts, change the hoses, change the motor mounts, all those things that you probably need to do anyway when you get one of these older cars, but at least you can do it all with the engine out, and then you can clean up the engine compartment. When you're all done, you have a really immaculate car. Can you imagine this one right here? If I were to take that engine, pull it out, pull this engine out, clean the interior, detail everything, replace everything that tend to wear out, and then put everything back together, go through the brake system, make sure the fuel system's okay, I've got a really reliable daily driver that is just a beautiful car. You can't believe the comments I get on this car. A lot of people can't believe that this car right here is 26 years old. How many 26-year-old cars do you see rolling around the road that look as nice as this one? So the thing with that 300E that I just acquired just before Christmas is it got hit in the front end. Now this car I've had about a year and a half, and I've been looking for a good engine for over a year. Now the 300E over there is a W124 chassis. This is a W126 chassis. They have exactly the same engine. So I'm going to be able to do a direct swap. You have to be careful about swapping between chassis, particularly when you have a little bit different types of engines. You run into problems with, you know, the computer hookups and drivability and runnability and that. But for these two engines that are actually the same, this is going to be a fairly easy swap. Now, some of you might say, hey, Kent, why don't you just fix the 300E? Well, let me show you why. The damage to the 300E is isolated to right into this area. The driver went and hit the back of a truck. It went up over the top of the bumper, so there's no damage to the front bumper. There's no damage in here to the subframe, but it did crumple the core support to push this inner fender panel back, got this fender, got the headlight. Now this is a 201 headlight, so you're going to have to source a W124 headlight if somebody wants to fix this. And also got the hood. It could mean that the hood hinges are also bent, but definitely the hood will need to be replaced. Looks like the radiator's fine, everything. This car is drivable. I drove it from Tacoma to Bellingham just a couple months ago. This 300E is certainly repairable, but because of previous damage to the car, the fact that it has a rebuilt title, and then now with the new damage to the front end, I just felt it wasn't worth it. You see, I just don't like that damage. I don't like the fact that it's been damaged before. It's been hit down that side when the doors have been replaced, and it has a salvage title. So I really don't want to put a lot of effort in that car, even though it would make a nice driving car. You know, like I said, I drove it all the way from Tacoma up to Bellingham. I had to jerry-rig that 190E headlight in to make it legal. I actually got it aimed right. But when I went to get the car, it was kind of all smashed in. I had to push it out and get the turn signal lens in there, get the headlight in there so I could drive it home. But it just cruised down the freeway. And that, once again, for me, verified that that engine is really in good shape. So I don't want to fix that car. It's got a lot of parts. I mean, if somebody wanted a beautiful interior, take a look at this interior. So you see, there's a lot of good parts on that car. Now, the icing on the cake is hearing the engine run. Let me start this engine up and let you hear it run in that 300E with 143,000 miles. This is an exceptional engine. It's very tight. It runs very smoothly, has great acceleration. Just listen how well it idles. You know, it comes right off a fast idle. And that's really how an M103 engine should sound. Notice the lack of vibration. So this is a really good engine. I've had this engine wanting to put it in a car that was worthy of it because I really don't want to fix the 300E. Now I think you understand why I'm excited about that engine. So there you have it. This is the type of project that I would go after. It's a very doable project. You can actually drive both these cars. Both these cars go down the road, and both these cars can be licensed and legally be driven. Don't bring home some rusty car that needs a paint job and it's all ratty inside because it's been leaking water and the engine doesn't run real good. Now, I've done some work on this already. Let me show you what I've done to the front end. Just after acquiring this 300 SE, I replaced the grill shell. This grill shell is absolutely mint. The front bumper, there's no gouges or scratches in this top cover here. And then I also replaced the headlight doors because they were very badly faded, and I found some better side markers. So the front end of this car looks really nice. Now, once again, I want to show you the interior in this car. Isn't that beautiful? Look at how nice that leather is. And even the carpets are in excellent condition. Absolutely no cracks on the dash, and all the glass is in really nice condition. If I get my power buffer to this original paint, this thing is going to really buff out. Now, if you're watching this and would like to have a project like this, I'm actually going to offer this for sale. And you're going to say, well, Kent, why are you putting this for sale? You've spent all this time and energy. Well, there's going to be a few of my cars and a number of my projects that are going to be put up for sale over the next year to 2 years. This year I'll be 70 years old, and I'm running out of steam. It's like the compression's getting a little low. Diesel purge doesn't help anymore. And I know you're thinking, oh, kid, you got a lot. No, it's taking care of all these cars and tackling all these projects is just becoming too much at this stage of my life. So I'm looking for good homes for a number of my cars. Just a couple of weeks ago, my really nice W108 280 SEL with the 4-speed went to a new owner in Tacoma, and he's so excited about having this car. He's just the right type of buyer who's willing to do the work to really make that a nice car. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that would really like to have this car and would really like to do this project with their son or daughter. What a great opportunity. So I'm looking for the right buyer. There's probably somebody out there. I know it may be an issue for some of you for transport because you live so far away, but maybe someone here in the Northwest would be interested in taking on a project like this. So I'm going to put this up on my website. I'll put the price down. I'll put a little information that you'll need. Both these cars have titles. That 300E silver one over there has a salvage title, but this one has a clean title, no damage history at all. So if you're interested in taking on this project, I'll put a link in the show more. It'll take you right to the description and the price on my website.